So yeah, last week was the abbot installation ceremony at Zen Center of Los Angeles, right? That the abbot is kind of the captain of the ship of a temple or monastery, and so the old abbot was retiring or stepping down, or what they call descending the mountain, and then the new abbot Dharma Joy ascended the mountain and he became the new abbot of Zen Center of Los Angeles. It was a very involved ceremony for those of you that were here watching. Um, People from our, cousin temples in Japan flew out and they were there for it. It was kind of, hundreds of people. It was like a big deal, or at least 100 people. I don't want to overinflate the popularity of this particular ceremony. But the first kind of major portion of the ceremony was the new abbot to be installed went around to all the different altars, statues, places of import in the temple and offered a poem that he wrote. So, on Zoom and even there, it was kind of hard to really investigate these poems because it was kind of happening in real time and there was a lot of movement and we couldn't even really see him and there was just kind of a lot going on. So I thought it might be cool today to look at some of those poems and just kind of dig into them a little bit. There was a lot of them, so we're not going to go over all of them, but at least the ones that are particularly relevant to us here because each poem coincided with a place or um, iconic figure of the temple, right? The abbot is the person who's really dedicating their life to the actual temple, right? So it's very much a lifestyle and even livelihood decision to become the abbot of a place. So you're really kind of he's showing his dedication to the actual space. So first temple we'll look at is the one he gave at the gate, the temple gate. His poem reads, "An open gate. May this gate, this sign, this rainbow flag always be a beacon and never a barrier, welcoming everyone into this house of all peoples." So we'll just kind of go line by line. So he starts by saying an open gate. And for those of you that look into Zen and have studied or practiced for a while, you'll kind of notice that there's a lot of gate talk going on. One of our bodhisattva vows that we chant every day, Dharma gates are everywhere, we vow to enter. We read the first book that we do in our koan study is the Muman Kan, or the Gateless Gate. So this image of welcoming, opening, allowing, inclusion, stepping through. What are we stepping into? What is this gate leading to, this Dharma gate that we vow to enter? Similarly, there's a lot of allusions and, you know, text around bridges, crossing over. This shows up a lot in Buddhism. Um, so I guess we can kind of see our practice um, as that gate, stepping into, that's our intention, right? Crossing the threshold, going into Buddha nature, the Buddha way. And we always constantly have to do that. I think that's why there's so much gate talk. You can't just cross and, oh, I crossed, now I'm in it, now I get it, that's it. It's kind of just not how it works. Every single moment is an opportunity to cross through that gate into my true nature. And it reminds me of a koan in the Blue Cliff record, I believe. Um, a monk asked Joshu is a really famous Zen master that shows up a lot in these koans. A monk asked Joshu, "What is Joshu?" And Joshu answered, "East gate, west gate, north gate, south gate." That's the koan. So, what are you? What are you really? What is your true self? Bobby is just a fleshy meat sack that's gonna just rot, get old, and die in the blink of an eye. What am I really beyond that? East gate, west gate, south gate, north gate, all directions, open to everything, welcoming, including. Bobby includes everything. I think that's what he's saying. And obviously it's not Bobby or Joshu, it's you. East gate, west gate, north gate, south gate. May this gate, this sign, this rainbow flag always be a beacon and never a barrier. It's nice. I like that he pointed out the rainbow flag. So Dharma Joy, the guy who became abbot, is gay and he's married to an awesome guy named Don. But I like this image of the rainbow flag as a general kind of symbol of inclusion, right? Obviously, the theme of this poem is everybody welcome, everybody included, not just in your temple, not just in your house, but in who you are. Everyone is who you are. I just love that. Welcoming everyone into this house of all peoples. No one is excluded. We, it's so easy to judge, to categorize, to compartmentalize people into this and that. Is your house open to Nazis? Is your house open to traumatized children? Is your house open to all beings? Doesn't mean we approve, doesn't mean we justify, doesn't mean that, oh, well, everything's great, doesn't matter what anyone does. It means that we are open to all peoples and even those that we disagree with and want to change. How are we going to do that? By shutting them out, locking them away, or by opening our gates? I think the major bodhisattva of our times is Daryl Davis, and I always reference him. Daryl Davis, black man, blues player, who has convinced dozens of KKK members to give up their robes and completely change their view of other people. And how did he do that? He opened their doors. He showed them love. He said, "Please come get coffee with me. Let me buy you breakfast. Let me hear about what you got going on. Let me show you who I am. Let me be vulnerable and loving towards you." And it's working. It's freaking working. That is welcoming everyone into the house of all peoples. Okay, next poem is for the Doksan room, or he calls it the teacher's room here. I think he means the Doksan room. Doksan is one-on-one interview with the abbot of a temple. It's also called Daison or interview for a Dharma holder, all these different words for this one-on-one work that we do with teachers in our lineage. So the poem for the teacher's Doksan room is Blast Furnace of Transformation, where metal is forged and metal is tested. A golden mirror, Nyo, thus a single figure of 82 generations sits waiting. So, a blast furnace of transformation. I had to look up what a blast furnace is. A blast furnace is this giant structure for metallurgic smelting. Thank you for making me do research, Dharma Joy. Metallurgic smelting is the practice of taking raw ore from the earth, blasting it with heat and pressurized air to extract the pure metal. So you can get pure copper or bronze, or what I read was pig iron. I don't know what that is, but so what a beautiful metaphor for what we're doing in there, right? We come in there as raw ore with our conditioning and our patterns and our preferences and our judgments, both of us, the teacher and the student. And through this difficult, heated process of intimacy, totally open to each other, we're extracting the pure metal of our true self and dropping away everything else. You can also say that's Zazen. Zazen is a blast furnace. Blast furnace of transformation where metal is forged, right? This pure metal, this pure true self, our Buddha nature is forged, and metal is tested. Metal, Mettle, which is fortitude, resilience, ability to face difficult situations. And if your teacher is doing it right, and the relationship develops, um, unfortunately, that's kind of what comes up is metal. It's not lovey-dovey. It's not supposed to just make you feel good. It's supposed to really dig into your edges. A good teacher skillfully notices where you're hanging on, and hopefully in some kind of loving way, even if a tough love way, help you to let go, help you to chip away at that which you're hanging on to. And ideally, it's coming from a place of love. It really is. So when a teacher says no, you don't get it. When a teacher says go back and work on this, when a teacher says you have to let go of this, you need to trust that this teacher is coming from a place of love. That the teacher isn't coming from a place of, wanting to show how right they are and how wrong you are, but that it's purely 100% when Nansen kills the cat, when Gute chops the boy's finger off, when Bodhidharma cuts off Echo's arm. Obviously, we don't know if these were actually acts of violence or more kind of like legends that have been passed down. But all of this is testing your mettle for the sake of wisdom, compassion, and true love. And if you don't trust that your teacher is coming from that place, then, it's totally fair to look for another teacher who will test your mettle from a sincere place. A golden mirror. Mirror is another thing that comes up a lot in Zen stuff. Why is that? What if every last little bit of the universe reflected me? What if I truly was one with every last little thing? And every last little thing I saw myself? Then there's no problem. Nyo, Nyo, is a Japanese word that I think translates to in accord, right? So this golden mirror, um, and I guess in the context of the teacher's room, the teacher and the student are mirroring each other, right? When you walk in there and you see the teacher, you shouldn't see this special wise person. You should see yourself, and they should see you. So then, Nyo, in accord, thusness, in accord with just this. This golden mirror isn't some special place that you like get to with enough meditation. This golden mirror is just the case of it's just the fact. Everything is mirroring you, whether you know it or not. That's what the Buddha said. That was his awakening. I am everything. You are everything. Everything is a mirror reflecting you, but we don't see it because we have these ideas and concepts about the world. We have this idea that I'm this separate thing, this self with an essence or a soul. But it's just not the case. And if we can embody this nyo in accord with what really is, then everything is a golden, beautiful mirror. And the last line, a single figure of 82 generations sits waiting. I love that. So beautiful. A single figure, right? So you walk into the interview room, the teacher's room, and there's this single figure of 82 generations. So if you're with us when we do service in the morning, we chant the names of all the uh, ancestors who passed down the mind of the Buddha, right? So the Buddha has his awakening, and then his student Kashyapa, one day he says, Kashyapa, you see what I see. You share my mind. You share my understanding. Now go get your own students. And then Kashyapa gets his students and passes it on to them. And so this passing on of the Buddha's mind is so central to our practice and to what we're doing here, right? It's kind of the point, right? Seisen Roshi, our abbot and founder, got transmission from Bernie. And if you look at the names that we chant, um, Bernie's number 81, and we don't chant Seisen's name because she's very, very much alive, but she's 82. She's the 82nd person in that lineage. And so to think that that person, that transmitted teacher sitting in that teacher's room, is really just, what does it say? A single figure of 82 generations, right? That's what they say when you give transmission. It's not saying you're special. It's not saying you know anything. It's not saying your life is going to be better. It's not saying you can levitate. All it's saying is you are the lineage. You are responsible for carrying this lineage. Your life is the lineage. I know that sounds kind of weird. It sounds weird coming out of my mouth. But that's the deal. You share this mind. And of course, every person is unique and every expression has to be unique. But I remember Seisen in the Doksan room always saying, you know, it's not me talking. It's not me sharing with you or reacting to you. It's the lineage. And I love that. Being in that position and not Bobby sharing or teaching, but just opening and being a conduit for that 2,500 years of passing this understanding through this single figure of 82 generations. Getting short on time here, so let's maybe we won't do all of them. Um, this is kind of nice. He did a poem to the garden Jizo. Jizo is uh, a bodhisattva that shows up a lot, particularly in Japan. Um, he's known for going into the hell realms and being really present for those who are suffering, the most vulnerable of us. And in Japan, he's known as kind of the usher of children. So he ushers like children who have died into the afterlife. So he basically is just the most selfless person you could possibly imagine. And of course, he's each one of us. So we have a Jizo statue here at Sweetwater, and they have a big one down there. And so he offered this poem to the garden Jizo statue. Implacable, showing no fear, entering the hell realms, protecting the most vulnerable, shaking your staff, pointing the way. So that's pretty self explanatory. I guess the one thing I really wanted to point out is starting out with this implacable exclamation point. So, implacable means to be unable to be placated or satiated. Um, Not just saying, like, you know, I gave 20 bucks to the homeless guy today, so now I'm good. No, this implacable Jizo is never an end, never satisfied with the amount of service to be done for others. It's never enough. Always more, always another gate to pass through to be of service to others. Always a deeper level of pain to bear witness to be present for. And man, that is just so loud to me because I do that so much. Um, convince myself to not do something, to not talk to somebody, to not investigate something. Why? Because, well, I did that last week, or I read that book, so I should be good. And it really reminds me right now, we have our anti racist study group on Thursdays. And right now we're reading a book called Me and White Supremacy. And it's primarily a book for white people to look at their complicity in white supremacy in America. I think anyone who reads it would gain a lot, but it really is. It's like a workbook, journal book for white people to really get to the heart of this. It's very difficult, very painful, honest work, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, I just wanted to share that two of the chapters that we just read are talk about white silence and white exceptionalism, right? How often, as a white guy, do I stay silent in the face of white privilege, discrimination? How often is there a conversation around race where I decide to just stay out of it? How often do I see employees of color at various establishments get mistreated and I don't say anything? All the fucking time. And then this white exceptionalism as well is particularly about this implacable, right? I thought white exceptionalism meant, thinking you're superior, that you're exceptional naturally because you're white. But it doesn't. It actually, the way they talk about it in the book is thinking I'm exempt. There's racism in America, except for me. Except for me. I'm not complicit. I did the marches. I gave the money. I have a black friend. I dated a black person. I read this book. I was friends with this person. So it doesn't apply to me. I'm not complicit. Everyone else except me or people like me. And man, if that didn't resonate with me for sure. And I love that. Implacable. No amount of good deeds, no amount of books read, no amount of protests, no amount of money given, no amount of awareness risen should make me feel satisfied. Or, should. Should is a weird word. But what if I was never satisfied? Always looking for that next open gate to go be bodhisattva. Um, and then I guess, let's see, we have time for one more. They're all so good. Hmm. Maybe I'll do another talk on some other ones. But so then he goes to the Buddha Hall. The Buddha Hall typically is where, in like a full-on fancy Zen center or temple, it's where you do the services. We kind of do everything in here in the Zendo, but in the full monastery, you have a Zendo, you have a Buddha Hall, you have a Dharma Hall. There's like different places for different parts of the practice. So the Buddha Hall, where you do service at ZCLA, the poem reads, "Majestic golden figure, world honored one, with your Mona Lisa smile. In the midst of all activity, raising the Bodhi mind, herald of liberation with just one catch, we ourselves must make the effort." Wah! The silence of 2,500 years shakes us to our bones. So, majestic golden figure, world honored one. These are traditional phrases that refer to the Buddha. But who else do they refer to? Anyone? Yeah, me. Majestic golden figure. You are, just as you are. Just don't wear brightly colored shirts or shorts. Explain, explain. With your Mona Lisa smile. Love that. Man, right? So the Mona Lisa smile, if you look at her, you can't really tell if she's happy, if she's angry, if she's constipated, right? That's the beautiful thing about that painting is it just elicits almost every emotion in this one perfect gesture of inclusion of everything. Worried, at peace, somehow it all exists in that smile. And so what a beautiful way to talk about Buddha. You know, one thing that we don't really point to a lot in Buddhism is that it really does, when we think Buddhism, just the basics of it, we think peace, we think joy, we think awakening, but we also think like suffering. That was his whole deal. Life is suffering. Being present, being of service, letting go of the self, putting yourself in the blast furnace of practice. So, which is it? Is Buddhism this dark exploration of the darkness? Or is it exploration of the joy? And of course, it's Mona Lisa. It includes everything. And what would it look like to completely drop away the dualism of joy and sadness, awakening and delusion, to completely embody the oneness of those things, as Mona Lisa did, or as the Mona Lisa does, I should say. In the midst of all activity, raising the Bodhi mind. See if you can do that this week. Brushing your teeth, fighting with a friend, doing monotonous work. Raise that Bodhi mind. Herald of liberation with just one catch, a very big catch. We must ourselves make the effort. So yeah, that's what the Buddha said. He said, we are the majestic golden figure. That is the fact. Can't change that fact. You are. But in order to see it, in order to embody that, we must enter the blast furnace. And then he literally writes out WAAAAAAAAAAHH. Wham. So I guess on the one hand, that could mean, but I don't wanna. Damn it. Now I have to do sesshin. Now I have to meet with a teacher. Now I have to sit through pain. Now I have to be of service when I just want to do what I want to do. Wham. Maybe, but I also really like the idea that, we talk a lot about making the effort to make no effort, trying to not try, desiring to lose desires, right? This is something that comes up a lot. And so I love that this wah is the first thing we do, right? You pop out the womb, and that's just what you do. Was there any effort in that? It's like the most effortless thing. And what if our effort to show up, to be of service, to sit zazen, to dive into our practice, what if that effort was as effortless as our very first cries? What would that look like? Then the silence of 2,500 years shakes us to our bones, right? So the Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. And what a beautiful statement to not say the teachings of 2,500 years, but the silence of 2,500 years. So that to me feels like the silence of Zazen, passing down the power of this practice of silence. That's appropriate. Um, but there's also this really important aspect of the teaching of, like the Heart Sutra says, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. So this loud motorcycle that's going on right now, can you hear silence in that? Can you drop off the separation between you and that motorcycle? There is no sound. That is what has been passed down for 2,500 years, the silence of a fireworks celebration. And yeah, for me and for those of us who like the Zen practice, Zazen is a really powerful way to get in touch with that absolute silence. So, anyway, thank you for letting me expand on these poems. There's no real clear through line other than the ones that you may have gleaned from listening. Um, so, yeah, let's all raise the Bodhi mind, make the effortless effort, and please, please continue to step into that blast furnace.